the third line center was a guy by the name of Bud Hoyle. Now his son is down in South Carolina or North Carolina as the general manager of the. That's his son.
Yeah.
So one time we were in practice, and you know they were taking reasonable shots, and Bud Hoyle is a right-hand shooter. Normally right-hand shooters aren't that strong, fast, or heavy. He had the heaviest shot I ever saw. He bounced one off my right big toe, and promptly within about 3 days I lost a nail right through the padding on my goal skate. My nail blackened and fell out. And it still shows the effect of having been regrown. So that was the hardest shot, and Max Bennett, from my experience, because the Leafs were Saturday night. So we didn't have our full team. This was during the war. And my brother, Doug, and a guy by the name of, another defenseman by the name of Tiny Tamanen, were both in the Navy. And they were playing in the National Defense Hockey League, which played only in the Forum. So they started out the first game here at the Gardens, but they had to be in the Forum, God forbid, if they ever missed their Navy playoff games, because they were playing for Royals against St. Mike's up here in Toronto. So they left at the end of the second period. I don't know if it was a special plane or not, to get them there for an 8 o'clock game that night. So that first game, you read the Globe and Mail before the game, you might as well say that we should, Montreal Royal, who are these guys? What are they trying to do with this St. Mike's? Let's forget about the series, let's just put St. Mike's ahead. Well, we happened to win the game 3-1. My brother and Tiny Tamanen left at the end of the second period, so it wasn't happy-go-lucky in the nets without our two best defensemen. They were gone on the airplane. But we went 3-1. So, bear in mind, I've been playing now indoor in Montreal since 3-4 years. But Canadians, they had what they call a C form. You could put 3 people on, you sign them for $100, you could take them off, but they had so many days to sign you off the C form onto some kind of a contract. So, Squib Walker was the chief scout for the Leafs. And after the end of the only first period, now mind you, I had my brother and Tamanen there, who were good defensemen. At the end of the first period, Squib Walker, even though I've been 4 or 5 years playing indoor in the Forum, Squib Walker wires the NHL office to put me on the C form for Toronto. So that's why, see, that was 46, 47, 45, 46, 44, 45. Now, 44, 45, St. Mike's had Pat Beamer as a goaler. And Pat was a pretty good goaler. But he was also a year or two older than I. So, Father Mallon phoned me up, who was our manager, at the beginning of the year. So that first year after, I stayed in Montreal. Father Mallon said, we have an obligation, we think, because they went right through, past us and into the final, the Memorial Cup. We have an obligation to Pat Beamer. And that's what they did. So Pat came back. And, you know, I mean, it worked out. So I stayed in Montreal. So that's how, okay, I stayed in Montreal. So that following year, the Royal senior team, I was playing Royal juniors when I played against St. Mike's. Royal senior team, Jerry McNeil, who later played with Canadians, developed in January appendicitis, had to be operated on in the middle of the year. And in those days, appendicitis was much more serious than now. So they had nobody else. I was a junior goaler. Our team wasn't very good the second year. So they hauled me up to play for Senior Royals at 17. Well, you know, most seniors are 24, 25, 30. We had Smiley Moronic and Alex Smart from Winnipeg. They're both over 30. Smiley Moronic's the captain. So I played 14 games right through to mid-February. The first game that Jerry McNeil could physically play, he had not been on skates for 2 months. They put him in the net against Shawinigan. So Smiley Moronic, he's a very honest guy, he said, look Harvey, he said, you're connected with Toronto. He said, I'll guarantee you, if I take a poll of this club, you're our netminder against Shawinigan. But he says, you're also Toronto property, and they are not going to develop a goaltender for Toronto. That's why you're not playing in Shawinigan, which I could accept. I mean, you know, that's politics and that's everything else. So that was that year. Now, Beamer's too old. So the following year, you know, I get the call from Father Ballin, you know, and I'm part of Toronto now since 2 years on this C form. So that's how I come to St. Mike's. $10 a week spending money, all the learning I could get, which I imagine was paid by Toronto, and the rest is history. I guess that answers it.
That pretty well did, yeah.
Mr. Carter, this is Greg Reeves. He is a fellow alumnus from 1973 and the current principal of St. Michael's College School.
Oh, well, I've had dealings with principals at St. Michael's by the name of Father Regan.
Oh, yeah.
Very fair man, a very good judge, and a very good man at acquitting so-called, what's the word? The ones who are being accused. No, not trouble. Accused.
Accused.
Yes. Yeah, you're very good, very good.
Oh, yeah. I also played on the buzzers for 2 years when I was here, and captain the final year I was here. We have that history together.
Yes, yes. Oh, well, everything fit together, as I mentioned before, because there were 4 or 5 football players. I did mention this, I think, before you came. We're playing with St. Mike's, and if we never had spare players, and I took this up with Joe Prebo. I said, what happens if we get injured even during the season? There were the buzzers, but I don't think, outside of Horton, if we needed a defenseman, he'd fit in beautifully, but outside of that, I don't think there was anybody who would have fit in. So, but if some of the guys of the 5 had got injured in a football field, we'd be in trouble, because our best competition was Oshawa Generals, led by Lionel Conacher, Charlie Conacher, with the filthiest mouth I ever heard. When he was at the Gardens, he got Gentleman Joe Primo and Filthy Mouth Charlie Conacher here. Right behind Conacher was W.A. Hewitt, registrar, father of Foster Hewitt, sitting in the deluxe box right behind Oshawa. You think that would stop Charlie Conacher? I could hear him in the net when he was calling. Terrible. I mean, just terrible. And the other part of the story...
Hall of Famer.
Eh?
Was a future Leaf Hall of Famer at that point?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And the other part of the story, you know, was Busher Jackson, Charlie Conacher, and Gentleman Joe Primo. So we're out at Ravenna practicing because of the basketball, Toronto Huskies. We're using Friday night, trying to, in the new American Basketball Association. So we had to go to Ravenna, away west. Well, one day at the end of the practice, the guy comes in, he's got on a bulky knit leaf sweater, bulky knit, big Toronto maple leaves, all dirty. You swear he was at the dump picking something. Busher Jackson. He's come to bum money from Joe Primo. But he looked like a bum. He had a disheveled beard like this. At first glance, I didn't know who it was. I thought it was Busher Jackson. I don't know where he'd been, what his life cycle had been, but I don't think it was very good. So here you got Joe in the middle, 99 and 44, 100% ivory clean soap. Busher Jackson on this side, bad shape. Charlie Conacher with the filthiest most you got. How did Joe get in the middle of these two guys? I don't know. And stay that, Joe was a gentleman. Oftentimes he used to drive me to Ravenna, and we'd talk. He was kind of like a father, and we'd talk. And of course, I'm different because I'm the goaler.
Right.
I mean, if you had 4 defensemen, with a goaler it's different. And he was one of my coaches. I had a coach in Royals who was a goaler with the old Montreal Victorias in the 30s. I was goaling for his team, Montreal Royal Juniors. He never told me one thing about goaling. Talk about goaling coaches today, that's a joke to me.
Yeah.
Joe Primo told me, he said, I'm a centerman, I don't think about goaling. Hap Day, he's a defenseman. He told me, I don't think about goaling, you're on your own. There were no goaling coaches. The only thing Hap Day ever told me was in a practice once. And, they're firing like a lot of pucks at, one at a time, so you don't get hit in the head. We didn't have a mask, but you tend not to make every move. I remember clear as a bell. So I'm picking them off like picking cherries off a tree, like this. And he comes up to me, he says, Harvey, that's the only thing he ever told me. Well, it was obvious, but under the circumstances, it didn't matter. He says, you get everything of your body behind every shot you can. You don't pick things off, which is true in a game, but in a practice, come on. That's the only thing Hap Day ever told me. And he was one of the leading coaches in the league. So he knew nothing about goaling. Joe Primo knew nothing about goaling. Orr knew nothing about goaling. The only thing I learned myself, because there was no one else. There was no upper goaler who came by me and said, I won so many trophies goalie, here's how you do it. No, never. Buddy.
You made out okay, though.
Yeah, well, it was a different game, different style of hockey, no masks. I wouldn't say it was easier because you get more. Today you get a lot of blind shots. If you're in the right place, it hits you. If you're not in the right place, it goes between your legs, goes over your shoulder, hits you on the helmet and goes in the net or something. That didn't happen before because there was no ganging in front of the net. Because nobody without a helmet or a mask was stupid enough to stand in front of the goaltender when the guy is flying a puck from the blue line, you're going to get it too.
Yeah.
Right, so you weren't stupid. We used to, when I refereed later on in 52 to 60, we had an unwritten rule. If you block the vision of the goaler without, that little guy Gallagher with Montreal, all he is a pest. And all he does, he gets over the blue and he stands in front of the goaler and try to bug him. If that happened when we were refereeing, that was interference, even though if you didn't touch him.
Yeah.
So the goaltender tended to have a more clear shot, look at the shot, which is only fair. I mean, what do you have a goaltender there? He's supposed to stop things he can't see,
Yeah.
and that's what it is today.
It's really good. Listen, it's great to see you, but I have to go.
Well, but I have a question.
Okay.
A well-organized principal has an ongoing grease machine.
Yes.
As long as the switch is on, it goes whether the principal's there or not.
Well, in this meeting, it's the meeting I called, so.
Oh, you gotta be there.
I gotta go.
And you have to serve the coffee.
I do.
Well,
to make sure everybody gets fed, so.
I'm happy to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Now I've met two principals, Father Regan and you.
Good. Well, I don't know if I match Father Regan, but I'm.
No, we're not comparing anything.
Well, he's, you know, has a little upper hand on me because he has.
He had to call me.
Yeah. Anyways, nice to see everybody.
Right.
Thank you for coming today. It's really.
Oh, it was a
And
pleasure.
I love listening. I'd love to sit here all afternoon.
Well, I'm not that far away.
Okay. See you later.
Thank you. Okay, your turn. What do you want to know?
On the goalie, isn't there somebody who told you about keep your eye on the puck and stick?
Yeah.
That was somebody else. right?
Yeah, keep your eye, that's what, before that was, I put it in my scrapbook, in my picture book. Two prime things, keep your eye on the puck and your stick on the ice. Now, the way they go today, it's very difficult to keep your stick on the ice simply because the moment you go down, the stick comes up. The other thing is, you can't keep your eye on the puck when there's four guys standing in front of you. So that is very difficult. But in the hockey we played, the hardest shot to stop was about 6 inches just above the blade of the goal stick on the blocker side, in my case, my right side. Because when you have a stick, it's hard to, if you master it, I master it because you have to do it, but a lot of them never did. You have to be able to bend down low enough and bring the stick along the ice, not this way, because the puck's going to go that way. You got to be bending a bit and bringing it parallel on the ice, and the chances are the puck will hit the stick on the ice. The other thing you have to know is that your right pad, a lot of goaltenders, this is the pad. This is what I would tell a young goaler. Here's the pad. A lot of goalers, when they want to go that way, they turn their leg in their pad. And consequently, they only have about 3 inches to stop the puck. They have to learn how to move their legs sideways and have, in our day, 10 inches with the stick on the ice to block that bottom corner, which is the toughest shot in those days to stop. And most shots that went in were within a foot of the bottom of the ice. Today, the vast majority of shots are like pigeon shots. They go flying up in the top corner. Very few ever go in along the ice unless it's an accident. It's a completely different way to goal. I don't like it. I don't hardly watch the games because I find with the blocking of the vision of the goaltender, it's like shooting. It's like shooting blind. It's like shooting a rifle where you can't see the target. They just go and they hope it hits somebody and goes in the net and then they celebrate. Well, I can do that. They didn't really have skill to put it in. It hit 3 people and it was like a bowling shot, what do we call it? A snooker shot, and then up and then everybody celebrates. It wasn't a skill shot, it was plain hockey. It's different, but you can't argue with those teams that are financially successful. Now, there's quite a few of them, and if you had the inside dope, they're more than you know. Because I know Brian O'Neill, still in the Montreal office, handles a pension for the NHL. He said if you knew some of the financial details behind some of the teams and some of the players who have spent their money long before they should have, he said it's a little shocking. So not all the NHL teams, 30 of them or 32, whatever it is, are successful. But you can't argue with a team like the Leafs or Boston or Detroit. Whether it's good hockey, if the fans are paying for it, they're going to do it. You can put on a stage show the worst thing you ever saw, but if they fill it for 30 days in a row and make a lot of money, the organizer's happy. Whether it was a good stage show or not doesn't matter. He made the money that he hoped to do. So I don't watch many hockey games. I don't like this style of play. And 5 years ago, when they were all trying to run each other through the boards and give each other concussions, I predicted that somebody's going to be killed here unless this stops. Well, fortunately now it's starting to stop.
So last night you talked about some of the stories that took place during the Memorial Cup. Can you tell us more about it and what your experiences were with your teammates?
Memorial Cup
Yeah.
during
yeah.
out west.
Yeah.
I covered it. I covered it quite a bit.
How was the parade when you came back?
The parade, I think the school gave a half day off. All the students were down at Union Station, and you saw the pictures of the cars. I was with Kelly in a car, and we came up Yonge Street, and we came up to the old City Hall, and the few usual speeches and things. It was all very nice. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know what was planned. And it has taken 2 days and a night to get back on the train because we didn't fly.